Hey guys, and welcome back to the second episode of Omknitting64's podcast. I apologize for being over 3 weeks, but as most of you know that follow me on Instagram, I've been away on holiday in France, and we will talk more about that in an upcoming segment. First of all, I want to say where I can be found as Omknitting64 over on Ravelry, and Omknitting on Instagram, and the Omknitting64 podcast here on my YouTube channel. Hey guys, I hope that your day is going well. It's a beautiful weekend here in Florida, and that's where I live, Venice, Florida. I'm on my lanai recording today. I wanted to give you a better view, but when I turned my camera the opposite way, everything was dark. It's because the sun is shining. So hopefully in upcoming episodes you'll get to see a lot of the foliage and stuff that I have around my home as I rotate the camera and record from different spots in my home. Mostly it will always be outside. I love being outside. I have a very nice lanai, so it's living space for me. I don't feel what word am I looking for? Claustrophobic. That's a good word. And sometimes inside I still feel that way. But anyway, hope you're having a great weekend. For you that are returning listeners, thank you very much. I'm overwhelmed. If you are a new listener, pull up a chair, have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, whatever your beverage of choice may be, and enjoy the podcast. Okay, so most of you know that I've been in France. I absolutely love France. I have such a deep connection to France. I have always felt like that was my home in my past life. I love the people. I love the culture. There's nothing that I don't love about France. It's a beautiful place, just absolutely phenomenal. We did a lot of walking. I mean, a lot of walking, a lot of public transportation, which here in the States I'm not used to because we don't have a lot of public transportation, but we did a lot of train ride, bus rides. Going to the grocery store is different because you go to the grocery store to buy canned stuff, or maybe paper towels or cleaning products. Your fruits and vegetables, you go to fruit and vegetable stand, and for your breads, you will go to a bread store, which is what they call the patisserie and the boulangerie. I enjoyed every minute of it. We were in Nice, we were in Cannes, we were in Cannes-Samir, we were in Monte Carlo, Monaco, and Morocco. Now, let me say a little bit about Morocco. Morocco is a beautiful country, but I probably would never go back to Morocco, and that is just me, for the simple fact that I have so many tattoos, and being a Muslim country, I kind of stood out like a sore thumb. I respect their culture. I tried to do everything I could to keep as much as I could hid. I wore long trousers and long shirts, linen, of course, that's my default clothing, but there was only so much I could do here. I could not hide, nor the skull tattoos I couldn't hide. So I still had a lot of people looking, and actually I got called a pirate, but that's fine. Morocco, I have nothing bad to say about Morocco other than that it's a beautiful place. If you're covered with tattoos, as I am, you might want to rethink your visiting. But anyway, onward we go. So, France, we're still getting used to the time change. I apologize for that. So if that's a little scattered, so be it. There's a 6-hour time change, and from the studies that I have done and the research that I've done, for every hour that you are either ahead or behind in a time change, it takes 1 day to recoup from that. So I'm only at the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm only at the 4th day at this point. So I'm still kind of groggy, and my sleep patterns are still misconstrued at this point. But it will pass. I definitely want to buy a home in France. My husband and I have talked about it. We are going to look for an apartment there, and hopefully within the next year or two we will be able to relocate to France and make France our home. So with that being said, if you get a chance to visit France, then please by all means do. The people are wonderful, the culture is wonderful, you will have an awesome time. So that's a little bit about my vacation. I'm not going to bore you too long with it. I had a great time. I hope that you enjoyed the pics that I posted. I tried not to burn up Instagram feed, but there were some places that were just so beautiful and breathtaking that I couldn't help but post the pictures. All right, so I guess it's time to move on to some knitting, and let's see what's keeping my needles warm. That was another thing in France, yarn stores. Let me cover that before we move on. I seen a couple, but most of them, the two that I seen, it was all acrylic, so I didn't buy anything. I did see in one of the stores there was some baby merino wool, but I don't knit with that, so I didn't buy any. But for the majority, it was all acrylic, and I didn't want that. I don't knit with acrylic. But the yarn stores, the people that own the yarn stores, the managers and the owners were very, very nice. They seemed to be very knowledgeable about the knitting aspect and how we knit here in the States. But mostly what they sold was acrylic. So I bid them adieu and thanked them very kindly, and we moved on. So what's keeping my needles warm? A couple of things, a couple of whips. This, first of all, let me show you. This whip is living in my field bag by French Supply Company, and I'm going to link everything in the show notes. I'm going to do a segment on review for you. That will be a little later on in the episode. But for what's keeping my needles warm right now, I apologize. Let me see here. Okay, so the first thing is my pattern by Martina Beam, Strickman. I have to look at my show notes here. I'm using Woolamize in their colorway. This is called Yada, as you can see. And then the second colorway is called Jacuzzi. It's a beautiful colorway. I love both of them. I'm really not a blue knitter, but there was something about this color that just attracted me to it, and I decided to go with it. So let me see if I can get it up here to show you. So I'm at this point. I've started the first, second, third. This is the fourth color change. It's a very easy pattern to follow, whether you knit with TV or podcast, or you're listening at an audiobook. The pattern is very adapted to any of those. And I'm using some new needles. They are from French Supply Company. They are driftwood, and let me put my glasses on. I have this pattern on a US 5 or 3.75 millimeter. Now, I bought the driftwood. If you follow me on Instagram or you watch my first podcast, you know that I am a signature art junkie. I love signature art needles. They are very expensive, as you know, and I was afraid to take them with me on an international flight. One, because I chose the signature art makes two different types of needles. They make two different types of tips, I should say. One is a stiletto, which is very, very sharp, and number two is more like this point, more dull, I should say, but still they're both very sharp. Now, I've never had any problems on an international flight taking my knitting. I traveled from Orlando to JFK, from JFK on to Morocco, and then from Morocco on to Nice. Coming back was just in reverse. I had my needles with me. I think I had one TSA officer ask me about it, but it was nothing. She just said, do you have anything sharp in your carry-on, as we were checking in luggage? And I said, just my knitting needles. And she said that was fine. She didn't say anything else. But I kept them, can you see their tips? This is from Coco Knits. I love these little things. They are spongy, and they come in different sizes, and the colors are phenomenal. There's some pink ones and blue ones, and then this sherbet orange. I want you to see this. See? So it just fits right down on top of the needle. See? That's it. I love these little things. Like I said, they're by Coco Knits. I'll put a link in the show notes for that. They're awesome. So you just put them together like this, and they just fit any needle. It's cool. But anyway, I thought, okay, back to the signature needles. I thought, okay, I'm not going to take those with me because I'm frightened that if I have to frog my knitting, or they want to cut the cables, and that's been known to do, I would lose my signature needles. So I thought I'd seen these online, and I kept wanting to try them, and before I left I ordered several sets. I think I ordered 4 through 9, so I could try. They are fixed circs, as you can see, and I wanted to give them a try. I'll talk more about this because I'm going to be reviewing this needle and this yarn in future segment in a few moments. But anyway, I wanted to give these a try, and I thought, okay, well, they're wood. It's my perfect chance to try them. Maybe I can get through security with them. And I did, no problems at all. But this is how much I have done. I've not done a lot of knitting while I've been home, for the simple fact that I'm sleepy. My appetite is messed up. My sleep patterns are messed up. But anyway, that'll get back to normal. And last night was the first night I felt like knitting, and I chose not to. I chose just to lay on the sofa and rest for a little bit. So this project I have named Manchel, which is French for my shawl. I thought since I was knitting on this in France, that it would be appropriate. Okay, so that's number one. Now number two, excuse me, number two is going to be my brioche incantation blanket. It's living in my blue filled bag by French Supply Company. I love these bags. I absolutely love these bags, and we have a local yarn store here in Sarasota. You don't want to see that bag, you want to look at me, obviously. We have a local yarn store here in Sarasota, my local yarn store, which is a Good Yarn in Sarasota. I'm in there very frequently shopping. One thing you may not know about me is I love bags, all different types of bags, handbags for men, leather bags, knitting bags. So the owner of the store has called me the bag whore. I have no problem with that, because truly I am. I love bags, and I have, oh my goodness, I can't tell you how many bags that I have. I've always loved bags. I've always loved things, little nice things to put items in. It's just been part of who I am, and I have a lot at this point. Anyway, my incantation blanket is on the needles. The needle that see, there's a pink one. There's a pink one. So anyway, The needles that I'm using here are, I think they're Knitter's Pride, but they are their Paris edition. They are interchangeable. They come with cables. I bought these probably a year ago, maybe. Just playing with. I like different types of needles, but as you know, like I said, Signature Arts are my favorite. But anyway, these honestly are pretty comparable to Signature Arts. I like that they are interchangeable. The difference between this and a Signature Art needle is the fact that when you buy Signature Art needles, you have to buy the cable that comes with that needle. Now, say if I wanted a 532, I cannot use that 32 cable on my 6 needle or my number 7 needle or anything else. That cable only goes with that 532. So you can get a lot of money racked up in these really fast, and I did because for instance, with the 5, I bought a 32, a 24, a 40, a 47, and the cables are not cheap. I do wish that they would make their cables interchangeable with their needle size. This needle is metal, and this project is on a US 9 or a 5.50 millimeter. And the cable is, I think it's a 32 is what I have this on. With that being said, these cables, the 32 cable that's on the 9 will also fit the number 5, the number 4, needle number 2, number 1. It doesn't matter. So for that I like. For that I wish that Signature Arts would change, but apparently that's just the way they do things, and you just kind of go with the flow, you know. But these needles are not bad. I have a whole set. I think they range from 1 to I think 10 or 12. I'm not for sure. But anyway, as you can see, I have a yellow one. I mismatched these. This is my Incantation brioche blanket. Let me see if I can show it to you. I got through 2 color changes before we left. What I've decided to do, this is my pattern. I decided to do a garter border, and then I went directly into the brioche. And then when I came to the black, I wanted to break up the brioche, and I ran, I think it was about six rows of garter, and then with the black I went right back into the brioche and back into the gray. Now the gray yarn is a little toothy, but I love that. As I told you in the first episode, I have no problem with it. It is by Rowan, and it's their worsted weight base, and I think they do have a name. I did find a name. It's called Granite. The brown is from Woolstock. It's in their worsted base, and it's called Gravel Road. And of course, a very wonderful workhorse yarn that I dearly love is Malabrigo, and it's just called 195 Black. So as you can see, it's shaping up to be very nice. Now I don't know how much I'll get to work on it this summer, because here in Florida, like the days in the 90s, and we can top out at 101, 102. My mom was visiting me, I think it was in August of last year, and we topped out one day like 112 degrees, so it's really hot. If I do work on this, it'll have to be inside under the AC, and as you know, I don't like being inside that much. So, but anyway, this is where I'm at with this. I love the way it's turning out, and it's going to be phenomenal when it's done. So, hello. Anyway, that's what's keeping these needles warm. All right, so let's move on to what's off my needles. And I have a brioche shawl that's been off my needles for quite a while, but I have several things that I want to show you, so I chose this one today. This shawl is a West knits pattern. It's called the Excuse Me shawl by Stephen West. I stalk him all the time, so anyway, I done this pattern. I have several of his patterns that I want to do, and I have done, and I will get around to eventually showing you. So let me show you this side. Excuse me. So, and then this side. All right, so the two yarns that I chose for this one was Malabrigo in their colorway navy, and the light blue was from Dragonfly Fibers, and their yarn was named after the cat in Alice in Wonderland, and I'm not really sure how to pronounce this. I think it's Caspin or Casper. It's not Casper, it's Caspin or something like that. But anyway, I looked it up, and it was named after the cat in Alice in Wonderland. So if you have children and you follow that movie story, then you'll know what cat I'm talking about. But the light blue is from that. There's a story behind this shawl. As you know, I share my home with my husband of 17 years and my two fur babies, Samantha and Phil. Phil is old. Will be 18 in August. I was probably about, I don't know, at least halfway with this being finished. He don't normally want to play with my yarn, but there was something about this Malabrigo or the Dragonfly Fibers that he loved. I was knitting one morning. I laid my knitting down on the sofa on the lanai, and I went to get coffee. And he was out here, and he had never bothered anything, so I thought, oh, you know, I didn't think anything about it. When I came back, it was just a pile of rubble. He had just unknitted everything, and then he was just looking at me. What am I going to do? You know, he was 17 at the time. He will be 18 in August. So there was no repairing. There was no surgery that could fix brioche. And in all honesty, I love brioche. I can knit brioche. I don't have a problem with it. One color, two colors, doesn't matter. But when it comes to brioche surgery, I tried. I couldn't do it. I was just knitting with two left hands. I had no idea. So I sent it to the frog pond. I re-washed my wool because there was kinks in it, and it was all crinkled. I let it dry, and I cast on again. But this time I kept it out of his reach, and I got finished with everything. I love the shawl. It is absolutely beautiful. Two-color brioche is just phenomenal. And people, please, if you have never brioched, don't let it scare you. It is not as hard as it seems. One color nor two color. My advice to anybody that's new with brioche would actually just to start out with a one color brioche, get the stitch pattern down. The one thing that I will say is that the terminology for brioche knitting is a lot different from knitting. Now, the knitting process I had no problem with. The terminology, I was just lost in translation, the same as I was in France. Even though I can speak French, when we were there, the proper French that I learned was not the French that they were using, because it's more of proper French mixed with slang terms, and that's what were throwing me off. So actually my brain hurt the first couple of days that we were there, but I did enjoy it. And as I said, I picked up on it pretty fast, and I started searching for slang words. But anyway, back to the brioche. start out with one color brioche, get the pattern down, get your stitches down to, you know, where everything's not so loose and it's not too tight. You want a happy medium between that. With that being said, then you can advance on to two color brioche. The terminology, like for brioche knit, would be bark, burp, which is in our terms as knitting people, artisans. We use, you know, knit, purl, SSK, yarn over, knit two together. It's just a little bit different terminology. But once you get those two basic down, which would be burp and bark, then you're good to go. If you're scared, don't let brioche scare you. It's a beautiful stitch pattern. You will love it once you start it, and it's really not that hard. I promise you. All right, so let's move on to review for you. And I told you today I want to review two things for you, one being the wool mice, and number two, the driftwood needles that I was using. So with that being said, my husband taught dental school in Virginia, and in Virginia, Richmond at MCV. This is where I first heard of wool mice, but I never could find it anywhere. I searched online. I really couldn't find what I was looking for, and I really didn't know what I was looking for. But I knew I wanted to try it. And I only got to try it when my yarn store here in Sarasota started carrying it. It's, first of all, it's wound very, very tight. When I first touched the yarn and I held it in my hand while it was still in its hank, it felt more like cotton to me than anything. Now, with that being said, once I unhanked it, I put it on my winder and my swift. It felt different. It wound perfectly. I have no problems with that. If I had a problem, let me get one out here. This one I'm not using, which is this one. It's Yada. I find it to be a little splitty. Now, I'm trying to think if it's my needles, if it was on signature needles, would it be different? I can't tell. I'm going to hold off judgment until the project is finished and I wash and block it. I have not noticed any bleeding on my needles at all, nor my fingers when I'm knitting with it. But like I said, as of right now, I find it to be a little splitty. So out of 10 stars, I would give it 8.5. I may readjust that. I apologize for holding that in front of my face. I may readjust that once it's finished. But for something that I have waited so long to try, I'm kind of iffy about it at this point. So that's my thoughts on wool mice. Now, the driftwood needles I bought to take with me while we were on holiday. They come in this nice little package, and they are from French Supply Company, and I will link that in the show notes. They come from there. I like them. I've seen them online, I've seen people use them, and it's just, they are a beautiful piece of wood. The glide is very good. Let me show you. There's no catches when you move your stitches from the cable to the needle itself. I would definitely order these again, and I may order the whole interchangeable set. I know that they come in fixed circs, as I bought to take with me, but they also come in interchangeables. So I may buy a whole set to take with me or to keep here at home. These are wonderful. They're nice. They're very slick, but not slick enough that your stitches are going to fall off, which, I think that's something for new knitters. They worry about that. I don't worry about that anymore. But I have to say, out of 10 stars, I would give these a perfect 10. I like the cable. It's not too stiff. It's not too light. It's got a perfect weight to it, and the wood balances out the cables. These are very nice. If you want to try them, I'll link in the show notes and try them. You might like them. Anyway, and another thing, I'm not a wood knitter. I usually go for metal, but I will definitely be using these again. I like these. So out of 10 stars, they get 10. Okay, so that clears that up. If you have any questions or anything, please ask me. I will be glad to reminisce with you and get back to these. My email for this podcast is omknitting64@gmail.com. omknitting64@gmail.com. So next to the last segment, I want to talk with you. My husband is Armenian, and in his country, when women and men talk too much, they go to ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. And sometimes he tells me that. He'll say, "Oh my God, you're to ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ing today." Anyway, I want to use this segment to talk about what I want to talk about. And so this is segment I'm going to title ta-ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Anyway, with this segment, I want to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart. If you feel like the knitting is done and you want to move on, thank you for joining me. And if you would like to listen to my rambling segment, thank you very much. So back in the late 80s, early 90s, I weighed 400 pounds. I was a very big guy. I eventually lost 220 some pounds without surgery, all on my own. And thus far, up until now, I've been able to keep the weight off, with an exception of a few pounds here and there, how that goes. But what I want to talk to you about today is body shaming for men. I know it exists greatly in the gay community. I've also seen it in the straight community amongst men. After being 400 pounds, I chose not to have any kind of cosmetic surgery done at that time, and I don't now, because I have a spinal infusion pump that's located over my left kidney, so my cosmetic surgery would be more entailed than your regular cosmetic surgery. Now, don't take me wrong, I have nothing against cosmetic surgery. I would love to have a booby lift and a tummy lift, but it's not in the cards for me right now. But I find that men tend to body shame other men to the point where men do not want to take off their shirts, or they don't want to be seen on the beach. Now, I battle this demon every day. Even after 17 years in front of my husband, if my shirt is off, I still have these thoughts going through my mind and my head about, oh my God, he's looking at me, he's looking at my loose skin. I don't want to battle this demon anymore. I don't. I have battled this demon for years, and I can't do it anymore. I'm exhausted. Body shaming for men nor women should never ever be. I don't know how we've come to where we're at with that. You're able to look at another guy and say, oh my God, he shouldn't have his shirt off, or doesn't have a beach body, or how can he walk around with skin hanging down from where he's lost weight. And I've had that said to me. You never know the history behind the person, what he or she is going through. As I said, I'm done. I'm exhausted fighting this battle with body shaming and what society dictates that I should look like. I can remember even in school, I always wanted to blend in. I never wanted to stand out. But for some reason, I always stood out. I could not hide in a crowd. And I'm serious, even today, if we are in a crowd somewhere and there's something going on, say there's a show going on, and they want audience participation, out of 1,000 people, they'll look and you over here, and it's me. I cannot blend in. So I've decided not to blend in anymore, but to stand out. If you like me, you do, and if you don't, I honestly don't care. I know the history behind my body. I know how I struggled with weight and food addiction for so many years until I got a handle on it and I lost the weight, and I realized that I'm a human. It doesn't matter if I'm 400 pounds or if I'm 180 pounds. I am still a person, and I deserve the same kindness and consideration as you would give anyone else. With that being said, I'd like to make a point to let's think about the other person before we speak or pass judgment on anyone, because you never know what that person is going through. Body shaming for men and women will always exist, and I know that by me saying this, it's not going to go away. But I also know that it helps me to be able to vent and to tell you that, I have problems. I have hang-ups just like anybody else. But at this stage of my life, I'm 52. I will be 53 in October. So at this stage of my life, it's not about being skinny. It's not about being muscular. It's not about being obese again. It's not about eating everything that I would want. My point now is I want to find balance, and I want to find harmony. I want to find that place in between all the others. And it doesn't matter if I stand out anymore. It doesn't matter if somebody picks me out of the crowd. I'm a person. I'm a human. And I deserve as much as the other person is. I will never be muscular. I know that. And I will never be skinny again. I totally get that. But I can find balance, and I can find peace, and I can find harmony. And that's what I'm looking for. All right, guys, I've rambled on long enough. I want to wish you a wonderful weekend. I hope that you get some rest, that you take some time to knit or to spend with your family. Go for a walk, go for a ride, enjoy some wonderful food and some beverages of your choice. I wish you the very best, and I'll say namaste to everyone. Bye. Till next time.